Do you remember a while back when we were battling a really bad Aptasia infestation here at tjsreef? Just imagine back to Aptasia everywhere. Ooh. Well, now that you remember, and in case you don't, you can click up there to see that episode. How did we get rid of it? What did we do? How long did it take to be successful? And what do I recommend you do to beat Aptasia in your tank? Stay tuned. Hey, before we continue with this episode, can you do me a favor? It takes seconds and it would really help the channel. You have to do like 2 simple things. In fact, you can do 3 to make it even better. But first, can you hit subscribe? And that way you'll get notified of all this great content that we have coming up. And then maybe give us a thumbs up down below. And the third thing, you know what? Leave us a comment. I'm here for the good, bad, and ugly. So if you like it, you don't like it, you got a suggestion, please let me know in the comments below. All right, back to the Aptasia fight. Hey everyone, welcome to this episode of tjsreef. This is an exciting episode because I finally get to make the Aptasia fight part 2 episode, and they're gone. There's no Aptasia in this tank. This is the greatest thing ever. It's been some time that we've had any Aptasia in this tank, and I've just finally, unfortunately, been busy, gotten around to making this video. So, how did we get rid of it? What did we all try? What are my recommendations to you? All right, well, if you remember back in the Aptasia Part 1 episode, I had a tank filled with Aptasia. It was ugly. It was stinging stuff. I don't even want to think about it. But we said, all right, we're gonna fix this. First thing I did was I used an Aptasia removing product. I think it was Aptasia. It might have been another. Let's see if I even have it here. Checking my bag of goodies. Oh yeah, it was Aptasia. Didn't work. In my opinion, it made it worse. How could it have made it worse, TJ? When an Aptasia dies, it can release spores, creating more Aptasia. And if you don't get every little piece of it killed at the very first get-go, Aptasia comes right back. So Aptasia didn't work. Then I got peppermint shrimp. Peppermint shrimp, well, they're very hit and miss. The first problem is you got to get a true peppermint shrimp. There's a lot of different types of shrimp that look like peppermint shrimps. Did I say shrimps? Not all of them eat Aptasia. And even if you do have ones that eat Aptasia, it doesn't mean they're going to eat your Aptasia, especially when they have plenty of other options in the tank. So if you feed heavily, they're going to eat good food. Why would they eat Aptasia if they don't have to? And you know, I see some people online saying, well, they just like starve their peppermint shrimp in a tank for like a week and then introduce the Aptasia to them, so that's what they'll eat. I'm not a big fan of that. That seems a little cruel to me. So I put peppermint shrimp in here, and that didn't work. I still do have at least 2 peppermint shrimp out of the, I think, 4 I put in here originally. All right, so peppermint shrimp didn't work. What next? Filefish. Well, I got Stanley, and there he is. I call him Stanley because he's flat, like Flat Stanley. And Flat Stanley is a pig. Man, can that fish eat? Unfortunately, Stanley doesn't eat Aptasia. Apparently, I got one of the few filefish that don't eat Aptasia. I am happy to say that Stanley is a very welcome member of the tank here at tjsreef, and I'm glad he's here, even though he doesn't eat Aptasia. He does love eating, and he's one of the few fish that know how to use the feeding ring. So there you go. Aptasia eating filefish, no go. So then we went with the nudies. I think that was in the first video. We put a bunch of money into nudies. Nudies are not cheap, especially if you get the bigger ones for higher flow tanks like I have. I saw them for a day. Actually, it might have been just a night. Like the night that I put them in the tank, the night I filmed them. Haven't seen them since. I'm pretty sure they got eaten, and I didn't notice any difference in the Aptasia in my tank. And I've searched many, many nights for any signs of nudies, and no go. As you can see, we are quickly running out of options. And I didn't want to go nuclear, and that's pulling the rock. So I had one last idea, and I went and got a copperband butterfly fish. He's still in a tank. He's over there. And his name is Chester, as in Chester Copperpot. And if you're a Goonies fan, then you know. But anyways, I got Chester, put Chester in a tank, and almost immediately, the Aptasia started going away. And every day there were fewer and fewer of them. Eventually, not a single Aptasia remained in this tank. And I thought, okay, could he have eaten all those Aptasia? Maybe there's still nudies in there. Maybe the peppermint shrimp are doing it. I don't know. Now, I'll let you in a little secret. In my sump, it's filled with Aptasia still. I haven't put anything in there to get rid of them. I have a plan of slowly taking pieces of rock out of the sump and putting in the display to see if Chester will eat them, and I think he will. And here's why. So there's a piece of rock right here in the front of my tank, covered in beautiful zoas. When I moved this rock into this tank from another tank, it had Aptasia on it. And so what I did is I put it in here, and I was observing it, and immediately Chester went up to that rock, found the Aptasia, and I saw Chester tearing them apart and eating them. I sat here and watched them, and I was very excited. It was so cool knowing that Chester has such a ravenous appetite for Aptasia. And in a matter of minutes, he had cleaned the rock. So I am going to experiment again by taking a rock from my sump and placing it in the main display and seeing if Chester devours those Aptasia. And I'll make sure to film that and put it on a future episode here at TJ's Reef. But there isn't anything in here, and so the thing that worked for me was the copperband. My recommendations. Number one, I am not a fan of F-Aptasia or anything like that where you have to inject or coat the Aptasia. In my opinion, that just creates, here's a good catchphrase, a super spreader event. Peppermint shrimp, very hit and miss. However, they're cheap. Most people want shrimp in their tank anyway, so give it a shot. Just make sure you're getting true peppermint shrimp. Filefish seems to be hit and miss. Not everyone's tank can have them, so try it. And filefish are generally, relatively cheap, not too hard to give those a go. The nudies, the nudies are 100%. They will eat Aptasia because that's all they eat. My suggestion, if you have a smaller tank or a tank without any predators, then try the nudies. They're not cheap, but they're 100% effective. Now understand that if you get nudies, it's gonna take a while for them to wipe out your Aptasia problem. And then once the Aptasia are gone, they're gonna die. And if they left an Aptasia behind, they can come back. Just understand that that's part of the problems when using nudies for something like this. Copperband, it worked for me. It may not work for you. They're not 100%, just like the filefish and the shrimp. And also you have tank size concerns along with tank mate concerns. I was fortunate enough that Chester gets along with Roxy, the Tang, and everyone else, including Ziggy, the wrasse. So you know what? Everyone gets along great. It was a rough couple of days in the beginning, but once the Tang was able to establish their dominance, it was no big deal. Everyone gets along great. There's no fighting. Things are looking great. Aptasia can be beat. They can be beat without tearing down your tank. And for me, the copperband did it. For you, I hope it's a much simpler solution. But you know what? I got a cool fish out of it. Well, I got several cool fish. Learned a lot in the process. And in the end, I got a happy, clean, Aptasia-free tank. I guess my final piece of advice would be, don't get Aptasia in the first place. I know, sounds easier said than done, and sometimes it is. You know, every now and then you can see the Aptasia on a new frag plug or something, but sometimes they're hidden in there when you're maybe buying some live rock or getting something from a show and you didn't see it because the Aptasia had shriveled up. You never know, so they can get in there. At this point, considering how many are in my sump and the fact that there's 0 in the display, tells me that if one starts to grow somewhere, it's being taken out immediately, most likely by Chester. So that is gonna wrap it up for this episode of TJ's Reef. You know, I hope you enjoyed it, and if I earned your subscription, I would really love it if you clicked the subscribe button, give me a thumbs up. Feel free to write me. I do answer all of the comments that are posted on tjsreef. So until next time, check those frag plugs for Aptasia. You don't want to have to fight them if you don't want to. Boom to Chester.